Sony may be plotting a new PSP to compete with Nintendo Switch 2, but it's likely several years away. So I seen this news like about a week ago, I think it was, or a few days back, and it was one of those things where it just really grabbed my interest. I was kind of interested in where they were going to go in that regard. I didn't get the specifications of what it actually was in the fact that they're making their own PSP. I was just heard that Sony was kind of going after a Nintendo kind of a thing. So when I actually found out that it's them releasing a portable, PlayStation, that kind of grabbed my interest. But at the same time, knowing how the Nintendo Switch is and how well Nintendo was versed in that area with handhelds and everything like that, I still don't necessarily believe they're going to be too much of a competitor for Nintendo because I know Sony has had their PSP and their kind of stuff in that regard, but they haven't really had anything handheld for a long time. And what the stuff that they do have that is handheld, it is nowhere near of a competitor to the Switch, or I believe it's going to be a competitor to the Switch too. So there is some information that I did kind of want to go over and kind of give my thoughts on in regards to them coming out with their own version of something similar. And it'll be a little bit later on, a little bit into the article here. So we'll go ahead and go from there from once when I get to it. So we know what you're thinking, and yes, it clearly feels like rumors of a new PlayStation handheld have been swirling since, well, probably since the launch of the Vita. But now we have a slightly more credible report from Bloomberg, thanks VSG, claiming that Sony may well be developing a new PSP to compete more directly with Nintendo. And again, even if they do come out with a new PSP that's going to be fairly good, I still don't really think it's going to be that much of a competitor with Nintendo. Because from my own personal experience, as much as I like the Switch, I noticed that I never really do play it on handheld. The only time I ever really do play handheld is if I'm traveling, like if I'm like flying through plane or something like that. And when I'm waiting, for my flight, then I'll kind of whip out the Switch and play it then, or if I'm like on the plane itself. But usually, whenever I'm at home or something like that, I never play handheld. I always have it docked up and I'm playing on the TV. So I don't think that, PlayStation is going to be much different in that regard because I probably wouldn't pick up a PlayStation Portable, to be honest with you guys. But if I were to, I wouldn't. And if they do have it where you can kind of dock it, kind of just the way you would like a regular PlayStation, I more than likely would be playing in that regard as opposed to actually playing handheld. So, according to Bloomberg, development of a new handheld is in the early stages and, much like Microsoft's planned portable device, likely won't launch for some years to come. As such, the company may still decide against bringing it to market, though given the remarkable success of the Switch and the hype surrounding its successor, we honestly couldn't be surprised if Sony dips its toes further back into the world of handheld gaming. As for what the PSP will be capable of, Bloomberg states that it will build upon the foundations of the PlayStation Portable, but rather than requiring the cloud to stream PS5 games, the device will instead play them natively. In other words, don't expect many, if any, bespoke handheld games like Tearaway or Uncharted Golden Abyss. And that's one of the things as well that I kind of heard that more than likely the device will be playing discs itself. So more than likely like a PS5 disc if you wanted to do the handheld as opposed to doing the cloud service from one of the other articles I was reading up on. So having direct competition for both Sony and Microsoft within the handheld space would no doubt make the Switch 2 a slightly trickier proposition for some consumers. That said, if rumors of both firms are to be believed, it's likely the Switch successor would have the console handheld market all to itself for at least 2 or 3 years or so. Combine that with the stellar first party software that Nintendo is known for, and we'd say the company will have little to worry about, at least for the time being. And that is one of the things as well, because with them coming out with the Switch 2, from what I've heard, there's a possibility that it is going to have 4K in it, and then the frames per second, so the FPSs are going to be a little bit better. So they're going to be winning in that regard. But one of the things that I will have to say that I am a little bit happy about, with Sony coming out with their own handheld device supposedly, and then Microsoft mentioning that they're planning something in the works, is that it will give competition to Nintendo, which in my opinion is always a good thing, because as good as the Switch is, and as much as I've enjoyed playing it for as long as I've had it, you gotta really admit to the fact that the hardware is really outdated at this point, and the fact that the frames on the Switch are so bad at times, because a lot of the times if there's a game that's on the Switch that I notice is also on PlayStation, nine times out of 10, I'm going to be buying it on the PlayStation instead, just because there is such a difference in as far as like the frames go and the way that it looks as far as visuals, because it does look a lot cleaner on the PlayStation. I have to admit it. You know what I mean? If it is one of those things where I do want to have the game just for the comfortability of being able to play it like on the go, then yeah, I'll go for the Switch kind of a thing. But like I said, I don't really play the Switch to go that often. So it's only like if I'm gonna go out of town or something like that that I might bring it with me. So I'll be playing it kind of then. But for the most part, I'm playing it on the TV, like I mentioned before. So if I'm gonna be playing it on the TV, I'd much rather have it on a device like the PS5 where it actually does look a lot cleaner and it is more enjoyable to play. Because one of the games that I think comes to mind a lot whenever it comes to playing games on the Switch versus the PlayStation is Hades. Because I remember I went to a family member's house one time and I brought my Switch and I was playing it on the TV. It was a really big screen TV, and I did notice that there was a lot of frame rate issues where I'm like attacking monsters and stuff like that, and ever got to a point where there were a lot of monsters on the screen, the game would lag, and that was kind of an annoying thing. So more than likely, that's not going to be the case with them coming out with the Switch 2. But if they do have more competition when it comes down to Sony coming out with something and Microsoft coming out with something, it will leave it so that more than likely isn't going to be a regular thing moving forward. More, it's probably going to have it so that Nintendo will have to kind of work towards keeping up with the competition and kind of bringing it so that their devices are a little bit more up to date and they are something that isn't so bad quality compared to the other systems. I know that the president of Nintendo has mentioned that they're not really trying to get too involved inside of like the console wars and everything like that. They're just trying to do their own thing. But even so, if there is a slight possibility that a handheld from a competitor will, give them a little bit of competition and, possibly take some money away from them, I feel like they aren't going to take that lightly. And I feel like that is something that will require them to kind of be like, all right, well, as much as we don't want to get involved, we are at least going to have to try to do a little bit better as much as we could. So those are my thoughts on that. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Do you guys think it's good that Nintendo might have some competition in regards to Sony as well as Microsoft coming out with their own portable devices? So if you guys can let me know what you guys think in the comments, if you guys could like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you guys have been watching this long, I really appreciate it. It means a lot. And yeah, until next time, Harmonic out. Peace.